Okay, great. Let's get started. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. My name is Jennifer Bento-Pinion. I am here at MEFA on the college planning team as director of MEFA Pathway. And today we're going to talk about college admissions and specifically how MEFA's college and career planning web portal, MEFA Pathway, can support this process. So we are recording this session and we'll follow up with an email with the recording and the slides that are presented throughout. So just a few logistics before we get started with our presentation. If you hover over down towards the bottom of your screen, you'll see that black bar, and you can adjust the audio settings if you would like to so you can control the volume. The chat feature is actually disabled for the session. So if you have any questions during the webinar, just pop them in the Q&A, and then after the presentation, I'll go through the questions and answer anything. So just as they pop up as we go through, and maybe even some of them will be addressed throughout. But if you have anything lingering, just certainly put that in the Q&A. If you would like to use the live transcript feature, if you want to see the words that we are speaking, you can just click that and you will see the closed captioning will be enabled. And then you can always, if you need to leave, just click the red button with the leave and you would exit the webinar. If you have to leave, that's fine. Again, we'll be following up with an email with the recording and the slides. Okay, so just a little bit about MEFA. MEFA was created over 40 years ago with its main mission of helping families plan, save, and pay for college. So we're over 40 years young. So we have the state's college savings plans. We have low-cost loans. Everything else is about providing guidance to our families and educators on how to plan, save, and pay for college. So you can always reach out to us. I will have a slide at the end of the presentation with a QR code where you can sign up for timely emails. So you can do that. And you can also connect and keep up with us on social media. So I'll share that, that slide at the very end. Okay, so as I mentioned, throughout this presentation, I'll be highlighting various features within MEFA Pathway, which supports college and career, the admission process. So MEFA Pathway not only supports the college admissions process, but it supports all sorts of paths that a student may take, post-secondary paths. So whether that might be going directly into the workforce or getting a certificate, going into a certificate program, going into the military, MEFA Pathway is a comprehensive platform that allows for all of that guidance and support. So some of the resources includes, we have a number of assessments, so skills, values, and interest assessments. All of the results of those assessments tie into a very robust career exploration piece. We'll go through the college search during this presentation, along with the financial aid and scholarship information. So a lot to offer within mefapathway.org. So very easy to get started. There's the website is right on the screen there. It's mefapathway.org. The students just register as a first-time user, and all of the features and activities are right within that one platform. Okay, so tonight we are going to speak specifically to the college admissions process. So we'll be talking about current trends. We'll be looking at how to develop that college list, the importance of campus visits. We'll be talking through the application process, a little bit about financial aid, and then of course throughout we'll have resources that are recommended and available. Alrighty, so first let's talk about trends in college admissions. So students are really starting to think about applying to college earlier than ever before. So maybe they're starting to think about that they'd like to attend college, maybe even in middle school, but they're starting that actual research and whatnot, maybe in grades 9 and 10, and certainly in grade 11, they've gotten their feet wet and looking at some colleges. But so students are applying to a greater number of schools. That's one thing we have here as a trend. A reason being that it's easy for students to apply to a number of schools using Common App. So it makes it easier for students to apply to a greater number of schools. Demonstrated interest is a factor. So in the past, when students applied to fewer colleges, the colleges knew that they were interested because they were applying to fewer. But now that students are applying to more and more colleges, it's important for the schools to know that the student is actually interested in that college. So important for, if a student is serious about a college, to to get in touch with that school, to attend, to reach out to the school, to make an appointment to speak to a representative. If you go to a college fair, make sure you sign up at the table of that school. Follow the college on social media. So many ways that students can show that they're interested in a particular college. Social media has really gained momentum over the past handful of years. This is great because the schools can use their platforms to share information, and colleges can interact with students in that manner so they can stay connected. One thing I will say about social media, as a student, you want to make certain that your profile is appropriate. So not all schools will check out a student's profile, but some do. So you just want to make sure that those profiles are something that you would want a college to view. Cost is a bigger factor. So you certainly want to make sure that you're looking at the student is doing their research and looking at the financial aid that the colleges offer. So you have a variety of colleges. You want to look at a variety of colleges so that you have options for sure. There are more ways to interact with the colleges virtually. So as a result of the pandemic, colleges have added resources online. So again, you can show your demonstrated interest by interacting with the colleges virtually. There are more test optional schools. So these are colleges that don't require the SAT or ACT. So you'll want to, as a student, make sure that you're looking at those schools that are test optional versus not test optional. And we'll talk a little bit about that more further on in the presentation. So as a result, more applications are being received at those test optional schools, resulting in more selectivity. And that ties into longer wait lists. So because there are a greater number of students applying, that's in turn creating longer wait lists. So just some things to think about, some trends. All right, so staying organized is super important. Students don't want to miss any deadlines, and they vary. So here's a great way. There are many ways that you can stay organized. This happens to be MEFA's College Application Manager. So you can download this right from our website. So you can download this or you can create your own. I know when my daughter was when she was creating her list of colleges that she was applying to, we just had a regular old Excel spreadsheet. But as you can see here, you want the school name, you want the admissions deadline, whether or not they require a SAT or ACT test, and then you can look to see which financial aid applications are required, deadlines. Again, we can't emphasize enough how important it is not to miss a deadline. So just one way you can stay organized here. All right, so now we'll talk about researching colleges. So again, the students are starting to research earlier. As I mentioned, some even as early as grades 9 or 10, but this should be a fun part of the process. So MEFA has a great interactive tool, MEFA Pathway, that students can use to help them start their search. So it's important to do the research. So the student will start to identify criteria that may be important to them, that may suit them. So on mefapathway.org, there are really two different ways the students can research and explore colleges. So one is the Match Me tool. So the slide the screenshot up here on the top right of your screen shows the Match Me, so it's a little bit more interactive. And then there's a main college search page, but the students can put in things that might be important to them. Size of the school, GPA range, location, the tuition range. So when they input the criteria, a list of applicable colleges will be generated. And then from there, the student can click on a college and look at the details of that college. And once they start exploring different colleges, and they can then add a college to their their college list. So then they can come back to that college list when they're starting to actually make their decision about where they want to apply and assess that list. So also students can use, outside of MEFA Pathway, a couple other resources here. There's the College Navigator, College Scorecard, along with Big Future. So a number of ways students can start that research process. Okay, some things that students will be thinking about when they're considering a college. So they're starting to identify that criteria that's important to them. Size and location. Does a student want to go to a big school, a small school? Thinking about classroom size. Do they do better with a smaller classroom size as opposed to a larger classroom size? So you'll explore from college to college what they think is best as far as a size and location goes. Academic fit. This is important because the student wants to look at schools that are academically like them, that fits them and maybe a little bit challenging. So academic fit is an important factor to consider. Campus culture. Students want to look at social standards, traditions, diversity, important things. Also looking at activities that the college offers. So are there particular activities that the student is interested in that they want to have available on campus? They'll want to research that. Learning style. This ties into the size of the school. As I mentioned, the class size. Also, and thinking about the size of the school, I will mention, is it important to the student to have like a big football following? Is that important to them? Sports, like large sporting events. So when they're thinking about size of school, another thing to think about. The next three things are the study abroad, intended major, and then career and intern services. Those are things that students want to look at when they're researching schools, because this might be something that are specifically important to them. So they might want to speak to someone on campus regarding these items, but also they can get a lot of these details within the when they're doing that research on the colleges. I know on the college details pages of MEFA Pathway, the programs and the majors are available for research. And lastly, affordability. Students want to understand the cost. Finances are important, but also understanding that students may pay much less than the sticker price due to financial aid. So another thing to look at while considering a college. Alrighty, so this brings us to school visits. So campus visits. So we are so fortunate in Massachusetts to have all different types of colleges: public, private, community colleges, rural, urban, suburban, large, small. So within a day's drive, students can really take advantage of these visits, whether they're informal or formal. So informal visits are great and quite valuable because this is, you don't have to make an appointment. You can do a drive-by, you can observe the students, you can visit at any time, you can informally walk around the campus, maybe attend a sporting event or even a play. So you get a sense of how the campus feels. Especially these informal visits are valuable early on in the process because you're doing your own self-guided tour. But if a student gets to be a little bit more serious about a college, a formal visit is suggested. So you can go on to the college's website and typically sign up right on the college website for a presentation or a tour. Many times these tours are led by students. So this is great because the students they're super excited about their campus. They want to share information. They want you to ask questions. So certainly if you get onto a campus with a formal visit, certainly be prepared with some questions. And that way you can really learn more about the school and what may not necessarily be on the college's website. And also if a college is too far to visit, a lot of the colleges have really ramped up their virtual offerings. So a lot of the colleges now offer a virtual tour. So no matter what, you can get a really good feel for the campus. And they're so important. Okay, so moving on to college fairs. So college fairs, at the bottom bullet here, you can find a list of the upcoming events on nacacfairs.org, but you can sign up typically right online for college fairs. Some, depending on the size of the college fair, we have one that's actually, I believe it's in a couple weeks in Boston, and it's a rather large fair. So it's, give or take 200 colleges. So this can be a little bit overwhelming. So you want to check out who's going to be at the college at the fair beforehand. Maybe make a list of the schools that you want to visit, have a plan before you go. If there are informational sessions that are available, certainly take advantage of those, because those can offer a lot of information in a very short amount of time. If you want to, you can even schedule a one-on-one meeting with the colleges if that's available. So that's important. So it's a great way to learn about many different colleges in one space. And I'll also add that to make certain that if you visit a college and you speak to a representative, make sure a lot of the fairs now have like a little scan code where they can scan to show that you've visited that actual booth, and that is demonstrated interest. So that's important. So make sure you do that. And also sometimes your high school will host a smaller college fair. So keep an eye out too for events that are offered at your school. All right, so now let's talk about prospects for admission. So you have started to do your college exploration. You've searched, you have a list of colleges on your My College list. So now you want to develop a final list with colleges of each of these three types. So we have likely. Likely is where you will likely be admitted. You look at the profile and it seems very similar to you. Possible is where you meet with the profile, but maybe there are some areas that are a little bit more competitive. And then the reach, for a reach school, those are very competitive colleges. And there typically are the Ivy Leagues, always a reach for all students. And these are considered a reach because the number of applicants, there's such a high number of applicants, they can't admit all the students. So you want to develop a list that has a variety of all. So you can use MEFA Pathway, has a great tool to help assess your list of schools that you will apply to. So you can add up to 5 colleges to compare side by side. Very simple to do. So when you add a school, it brings in the information on the school, as you can see here on the right, the key factors, undergraduate information, financial information, academic information, test score information, and then you can even add preferences, your own preferences. And if a school doesn't match up to the preferences that you have set, it will be shaded in red. So this is a great way to look at, I'll just use GPA for an example. If you have a GPA of a 3.2, and then you look across the board here and you see that the average GPA for UMass Lowell is 3.5 to 4, so you might fall a little bit under that might be more of a reach school for you. All right, so great way to help us develop that final list of schools. So mefapathway.org on the College Compare tool. All right, so now let's start talking about college application types. So this is when you'll see on each of your college's websites there, if you are applying regular versus early versus rolling, all of those dates will be on your college's website. So regular decision typically has an early January deadline. So we now have early action and early decision. So early action has earlier deadlines in November and December. So you hear back a little bit earlier if you apply to a school early action. But that is a non-binding commitment. Whereas early decision, you can only apply to one early decision school. And if they admit you, then you have to accept that admittance. So you want to make certain, this is really something that you really want to think about before you apply for early decision. You want to make sure that this is your top choice of a school. You want to understand the financial aid. So you want to use the calculators on the college website to make sure that if you get in, you believe that the financial aid that you receive will be adequate. Because again, that's a binding decision. All right, and then rolling admission. So rolling admission is typically between November and May. So it's good to apply on the earlier side because the colleges may, they may write on a financial aid and they have only a certain number of students that they can admit. So keep an eye on that. And then open admission, this is typically used for our community colleges. So you can apply for most anytime, but you also want to be certain that if you're applying for a specific program, this program may fill up. So apply on the earlier side rather than waiting. All right, now let's talk a little bit about college application forms. So application requirements vary at each college. So you want, for each college that you're applying to, you want to see how you're going to apply. So there are many schools that use the common application. So this is, as I mentioned earlier, where students can apply to many colleges right from this one platform. Some schools use the Universal College app, some the Coalition app, some use the actual college website. So you just go right into their website and you can apply right from there. And then some are still taking a paper application. So again, you'll want to go onto the college's website to see what they use, and then even see if there's an option. Like maybe they use Common App, but you could also apply through their website. So you want to see how you apply for each of those colleges, and it will vary. Okay, so moving on to college application components. So your college application, you want to treat like a work of art. It's a representation of yourself. So here are the different components. So we have the form itself, high school transcript, standardized test scores. Again, these might be optional. Letters of recommendation, and we'll speak to these specifically in the upcoming slides. Activity list, personal essay. You'll want to see if an interview is required or not. And then audition or portfolio. Some of the schools, maybe if you're applying to a music school or a dance program or art, these might be additional pieces that may be required for your application. So you just want to make sure that you're going through all of the colleges that you're applying to and looking to see what is required of each school. All right, next up, academic readiness. So this is still the most important component of an application. So the colleges want to make certain that the students can handle the academics at their college. So they're looking at rigor. So they're looking at more than just grades. They're looking at good grades versus challenging classes, honors versus AP classes. They want to see good grades, but they also want to see those challenging classes. So they're looking at improvement over time. You know, maybe a student had a little bit of a shaky start at the start of their high school career, but as the years went on, they improved over time, and now they've been solid. So that's what schools look at, that colleges look at that as well. Are they exceeding the minimum requirements? Are the courses that they've taken in high school relevant to their college plans? So the subjects that they've taken should match their intended program of study in college. And then students should look up the sliding scale for mass public colleges and universities. You can look that up online to see the GPA requirements for that. So I will say that there's a college out there for everyone. So you just have to do the research, do the work. And also one thing to note and to look into for each college is to see if those AP courses translate into college credits. And also as a reminder to, as you embark on your senior year, don't let those grades slip. So colleges do have the right to rescind an admission if the senior grades aren't satisfactory. So yes, just another suggestion is to not let those senior grades slip. Okay. So let's see now, let's talk a little bit about standardized tests. So as I mentioned earlier, some colleges are still requiring standardized tests, but more are becoming test optional. So you can get a list on that website, fairtest.org. So if the students do end up taking a standardized test and they're applying to a test optional school, if they are sent, they will be considered. So if they did well, send them in. If there is a school that is test optional and the student decides not to send test scores in, other parts of the application will be looked at a little more heavily. So keep in mind that point. So the PSAT. So the PSAT is a practice test that's typically taken in grade 10 or 11. This is a great way to get practice for that SAT. And once the student takes the PSAT in College Board, they can actually connect their scores to Khan Academy, and then Khan Academy will create a customized test prep. So that's something to think about in prepping for the SAT. So the SAT and the ACT. So the difference between the two, the SAT measures more analytical or critical thinking, where the ACT is more curriculum based. So just different tests. Have students can, it never hurts to take both to see which one, because they're so different, that the student scores better on. So some colleges will take the best score of the test from each section, and others will take the overall best score from one test date. And again, just make sure to keep track of deadlines. And then the AP exam, you can take the AP exam and send the score to the college. Okay. So now let's talk a little bit about students' activity lists and their resume. So the colleges are looking for students that have shown leadership, family responsibilities, consistency, passion. They're looking at activities both inside and outside of school. So they want to, showcase what the students what they've been doing for the past few years. So MEFA Pathway has a great way for students to keep track of all the great things they've been doing right in the platform, in their profile details. So they can add sports, clubs, activities, internships. It's all housed right within the profile details. And once they start adding information into the profile details, then all of that information feeds into a resume builder. So I have a couple screenshots here. So the students can actually select what they would like to appear on a particular draft of a resume. So really easy way, number one, to keep track, because you don't want to forget about any of the great things that you're doing over the years. But it also can be specific to the schools that you're applying to. So again, the student can create, many drafts and then include that. Also, this is great. The activity list is great for when you're requesting letters of recommendation, sending along an activity list to whoever you're requesting from, so it can jog their memory of what a great student you are. All right, so again, that's on MEFA Pathway. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the essay. So the essay is an important piece of the application. It says a lot about the student. The student should treat it not as a research paper, but as a personal story. So something that's personal and meaningful to them. Start writing it early. Don't wait till the last minute, because this is something that you don't want to just crank out in a night. You want to try different topics and different approaches. You want to focus on your current self. You may even want to create a draft and then read it out loud to a friend or family member to make sure it sounds genuine. And then you'll want to maybe start at your junior year and then work on it through the summer, so you have it ready to go by the fall of your senior year. You want to make certain to note that plagiarism is taken very seriously, so no copying. And again, just make sure you leave plenty of time so that you're not rushing through the essay. Okay, and here are the essay prompts for fall 2023 admission, so you can get a good idea of the questions that are being asked. So I'll just read one, but here's a good one. Reflect on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or idea. What prompted your thinking? What was the outcome? So these are, you can look at them, and again, you'll have the slide deck, and you can look these up too on Common App. But these are great ways to get students really thinking about what they would like to share, and again, what's something that is meaningful and personal to them. All right. Letters of recommendation. So this is something the students can start thinking about in their junior year. Who do they want to ask a letter of recommendation from? It's recommended to ask a teacher in a core subject. So maybe English, math, history, or science. Maybe a teacher that you've had in an honors course or AP course. So you want to start thinking about this definitely spring of your junior year to give you plenty of time, and also touch base with your counselor to see how you would go about requesting those letters. Sometimes a school has a form or a particular format. Sometimes if you're using MEFA Pathway and you're one of our Common App Parchment integrated schools, you would actually request letters of recommendation right from the website. So you want to ask your counselor, how you will request those letters of recommendation. But we always, again, say plenty of time, and then also send a thank you note. I mean, the teachers, they put a lot of time and effort into these letters, so certainly follow up with a nice thank you. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about interviews. So interviews not always required, but if a school if they strongly suggest it, definitely do it. If you have any requests of an interview, respond immediately. So the importance of an interview varies from school to school. So you certainly want to research this in advance to see what the status of an interview is. So there are two different types of interviews. So there is informational, and this is where the student asks the questions. And then there's evaluative. So this is when admissions ask the questions, and it's part of the admissions process, part of their decision process, and that's taken into consideration. So two different types. So when you go to these interviews, either type, you want to make sure that you're equipped with some open-ended questions, something that you cannot find out on the school's website. So be prepared to ask open-ended questions. One common question that is asked is, why are you applying to this college? So have a thought out answer to that. Try not to be, even though the interview itself, you might feel a little overwhelmed or intimidated, try not to feel so. Admissions folks, they're thrilled to speak with students, and they want to hear about you. So just try to relax and be yourself. Maybe even do a trial run at home, maybe in front of the mirror, or with a friend or family member, just to get a little practice in. But again, the college admissions folks, they know that this is a challenging piece and sometimes a little scary. So they take that in mind too. But just be prepared. And follow up with a thank you. That's always nice too, after you have an interview. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about the admissions decisions. So here we have them listed out here. So admitted, yay, you've been accepted. So you may also be accepted to begin at a later semester. So that might be an option, but that's very good news. Deferred is when students have not been, if they've applied early action or early decision, they haven't been accepted with that pool, but will be considered in the regular applicant pool. So that's deferred. We have denied, so that would mean that the student has not been accepted. And then, and just to note here, if a student receives that they've been denied, just try not to be too disappointed. It's part of the admissions process. Colleges can't accept all of their applicants, but hopefully you have another college on your list that you'd be happy to go to when you're admitted. And then there's the wait list. So the wait list is increasing in popularity. So that means that the student has not yet been accepted, and they may not get accepted, but they have been added to that wait list. So if you have applied to a college and you've been put on the wait list, a couple things. Let the college know that yes, you'd like to stay on their wait list if that's the case. But also kind of move on in your mind a little bit. Stay in touch with the college, but also have a college that you can send your deposit to and be just as happy to go there, because you might not get accepted off the wait list. So also to note is that a lot of the colleges are sending their decisions through a web portal now. So make sure that if that is the case, that the students are signing up for that web portal, they've logged in and checking that portal regularly. And then the deposit deadline, typically May 1, and this is where you'll secure your spot at your college of choice, and that's exciting. Okay, understanding a little bit about college affordability. So we'll talk a little bit about college affordability and financial aid, but MEFA has a host of resources on financial aid and paying the college bill. So you can go right onto mefa.org, and you can view a recorded webinar. You can join one of our live webinars such as this. But we can talk about some of the factors here. So students will want to look at the cost of attendance and the net price. So the cost of attendance is everything that's included. So that would be tuition and fees and transportation, food, housing, health insurance if needed. And then the net price is the cost minus the financial aid the student might receive. So all colleges have a net price calculator on their websites. So this will give you an estimate of aid at a college. So that will give you a general sense. So the net price calculator displays both federal and institutional aid. So certainly suggested if you're applying for a college, get onto that website and fill out that net price calculator. So you'll want to look at need-based aid versus merit-based aid and looking at the deadlines of those. And then you can always start looking for private scholarships. So those would be scholarships outside of what the school may offer you. All right, applying for financial aid. So senior year, fall of senior year, you'll want to look to see, well, not you want to look earlier, but see which forms are required for your colleges. All students should fill out the free application for federal student aid, the FAFSA. So that that's a given. You'll want to make sure that the students fill out the FAFSA. The CSS profile is not required by all schools, but you'll want to look at the list of schools that you're applying to see if is required of any of those schools. So it's required, as said here, by over 250 colleges and scholarship agencies. So that's another financial form. And then college-specific financial aid applications. So if there's additional financial forms that the student needs to fill out, you'll see that on the college's website. So you just want to make sure again that you're filling these forms out and on time. All right, so options in Massachusetts. So we are so lucky in Massachusetts to have a great program. It's called Mass Transfer. And MEFA Pathway has a tool within the website that students can look at estimated savings based on potential schools that they want to look at. So for example, if a student starts at a community college, starts at Northern Essex, so they select Northern Essex, and then they can say, I want to start at Northern Essex, and then I want to transfer to UMass Lowell. So they can put those two institutions in, and then the system will generate, as you can see from the screenshot here on the upper right, estimated savings for, we're just showing two here, but for the three programs. So the Gen Ed program, the A to B, and then the Commonwealth Commitment. So we have, there are different requirements for the different programs, so that's outlined as well. But it's a great way for students to really save a good amount of money by starting at a community college and potentially transferring to a four-year Mass Public College. And then we do have, there is another program, Tuition Break. So this includes, this is outside of Mass Transfer, it's called Tuition Break, and it is a program that has a reduction on out-of-state tuition costs at New England schools for certain programs. So you can check out more information on this website here. All right, as I mentioned, you can start searching for private scholarships. So MEFA Pathway has a great tool that will help students, they can apply different criteria to their search, and what makes a very overwhelming kind of process manageable. So many scholarships out there that are offered, and so many that go unawarded every year because students don't apply. So students can go into MEFA Pathway, they can add, for example, their area of study, the state that they live in, type of school, and it will generate a list based on the criteria that they added, a list of national scholarships that are offered, and then they can start looking at the details of those, looking at the deadlines, and then they can start adding scholarships to their list that they would like to apply to. So they can build this scholarship list right within MEFA Pathway, and they apply outside of MEFA Pathway, but it will lead them to typically to the website where they can apply for these outside scholarships. And I will say, if you ever get on a scholarship and that is asking you to pay to apply, steer clear, because shouldn't be paying to apply for a college for a scholarship. There are some scams out there, so just be careful with that. All right, so looking at our timeline for junior and senior year. So spring, summer of junior year, students are researching colleges. They're going and doing those campus visits and visiting the college fairs. They're thinking and asking teachers for their letters of recommendation, taking the standardized test, starting to write their college essay. Then in the fall of their senior year, they may be retaking one of those standardized tests. They're securing those letters of recommendation, finalizing their essay, maybe attending one of our financial aid webinars. And then they're completing all of the requirements of the applications of the schools that they're applying to, submitting their financial aid applications. Then as we move along to winter of senior year, they're completing any of those applications that they need to submit. Maybe they applied early for a couple, regular for a couple, so you want to, they'll be wrapping that up, submitting their financial aid applications, again, applying for those private scholarships, sending mid-year grade reports in. And then spring of senior year, they'll be receiving their letters, their financial aid offers, and then they can attend any open house programs that the schools are offering. And then by May 1st, they are choosing their college and sending in their deposit. So very exciting time. And we do, it's a process. We call it a process. It is a process. It takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of time and effort. So it's good to start early and get those pieces in place and at least know what you have to do when you have to do it. All right, so what can you do now? Sign up for, I'm gonna have that QR code on the screen in just a moment here. Sign up for our emails, sign up for any webinars that you would like to attend, researching those colleges and starting to create that college list. Maybe one thing you can do also now is identify some sort of a tracker to keep your deadlines all squared away. All right, so here's the QR code so you can sign up for our MEFA emails. And also you can follow us on social, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. We have a great podcast that's available, new episodes coming out all the time. So great way to keep up with us in many different forms. All right, so let's see if we have any questions. Oh, here was a good question. How far back should a resume go? So a resume, typically the student will start adding information that they want to appear on their college application in grade 9. So they don't have to include everything, but depending on the college, depending on the program, they can select, but they want to put it all within MEFA Pathway, within those profile details. So I would say grade 9 is looking from grade 9 on. That's a really good question. All right, here's a question. Early decision is binding, but the financial aid package is not offered until acceptance. What's the best way to predict? Yeah, so I would go on to that net price calculator and check that out. And yeah, that's something that's really serious to consider, is that financial piece, because that is a binding decision. All right, I don't see any other questions coming in. Well, you can always get in touch with us as a follow-up. Let me put the next screen on here with our contact information, so you can always reach out by calling us at 1-800-449-6332. We actually have a call center Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, answering questions. And you can always reach out to us at collegeplanning@mefa.org. Oh, and then one more question. Does MEFA Pathway cost anything? I failed to mention, MEFA Pathway is a completely free online service. So any student can go in and register an account as a new user. So just go to mefapathway.org and then click on I'm a student, and it'll bring you through that registration process, and you will have access to all of the great features and more that I mentioned here this evening. Great question. Thank you for asking. All right, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for sharing part of your evening with me tonight, and have a good one. Thank you.